Do Americans learn English in school? And do we have to memorize words and learn all these complex grammar structures? The short answer is yes, absolutely. Even though we have the English environment and we have the sense to feel if grammar is right or wrong, we do still spend a lot of time learning English in school. We focus a lot on complex grammar and expanding our vocabulary. We also have a lot of English literature classes where we have to read a lot. From Shakespeare to Dante's Inferno to The Great Gatsby, there are so many books that we read when we're going through school. So today I wanted to share a list of commonly read books in American high schools. First of all, these aren't technically required to read, but we do refer to them as required reading. And this list is set by each individual school, and even our English teachers have a say in what kind of books they want to teach in their own classrooms. But with that being said, most teachers and schools choose from a pretty similar list. So here's a list of a few books that most Americans have read in high school. Let's start with Shakespeare. So I personally read a lot of Shakespeare in high school and even in college, and I think the most popular one is definitely Romeo and Juliet. I mean, most Americans know the famous line, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" I know some people might be wondering, why do you read Shakespeare? It's so old. And that's true, but it's still very relevant to this day. Not just Romeo and Juliet, but many of Shakespeare's plays have common storylines or motifs that are replicated in a lot of the media you consume on a day-to-day basis. Shakespeare is literally the blueprint. So by understanding the source material, it helps us to better analyze everything else. But now let's talk about some more modern works. I mean, maybe not totally modern, but at least not as old as Shakespeare. Lord of the Flies is a story about a group of young boys who suddenly become deserted on this island after their plane crashes. And it's the first time in any of their lives that they have no adult supervision, and they're experiencing this kind of freedom. At first, they try to have their own kind of society, and they try to follow a routine and some daily rules. They even appoint someone as their leader, and it seems to be going well at first, but eventually things take a turn for the worse, and you start to see the more dark side of this group of little boys. This book reveals things about the darker side of human nature. It discusses morality and violence, and it's a really interesting take on what might happen between humans when we take away all of these rules that we've created within society. In American schools, when we read things, we're not just simply reading them. We're also learning how to analyze text and how to understand what the author is really trying to convey to us. And we also use these books as a way to spark conversation and discussion within our classrooms. We have a lot of classroom discussions where everyone has the chance to share their opinion, and you get to understand other people's perspectives and also talk about how the book makes you feel. So I remember when we read this book in high school, some of my classmates were pretty quick to judge and were just assuming like, oh, all little boys are evil. They're so bad. They're terrible. But that's kind of just a superficial take on this book. And if you really read the book, there are so many things to discuss and contemplate on. It's really, really interesting. We also read The Giver, and I actually have a copy with me here. And earlier I recommended the book Holes, and if you liked that story, I think you're really gonna like this one too. I mean, they're totally different stories, but something about them just gives me the same kind of vibe, so I do recommend this one too. This story takes place in a world that seems very utopian, but there's something a little bit off. So in this world, society has kind of taken away pain and sadness, these negative emotions, just by ridding everyone of emotional depth. And everyone sees things in black and white. There's no color, there's no emotion. And when kids turn 12 years old, then they get their first assignment. And this assignment is basically a job. And they tell kids at 12 years old what they're going to do for the rest of their life. And you don't have a choice, you're just assigned this assignment. And in The Giver, this story follows a young boy named Jonas who is assigned a very special job, and he's exposed to what the world was like before they took away all this emotion. It's a very interesting dive into stuff like memories and free will, and it sparks an interesting conversation about what is morally right. Like, would you like to live a life without any pain and suffering if that meant that you could also never experience great joy and happiness ever again? Again, these are just things that we discuss in the classroom, and it helps us to understand other people's perspectives on things. Okay, next up is another classic, but maybe something that's not as well known, and this is The Outsiders. This book was very well loved in my classroom. I mean, sometimes not every book is a hit, right? Something like Shakespeare or the classics, it could be kind of a drag for other students. It can be kind of hard to finish and get through, but this book was very well loved. I just strongly remember everyone in my classroom was super invested in this story, and we got really attached to all the characters, and we wanted to know what was going to happen to them. This book follows two different social cliques, and one of them is the Greasers, and these are kids from not so wealthy families, maybe working class families, and they kind of have a rough time in life. And the other group is called the Socias, and these are kids from more wealthy families, and they fit more into what society expects young adults to be like. This is a story of true friendship and family and making connections with people you might have never even thought you had anything in common with. But there are also some really serious life issues that they all have to deal with, and it's inspiring to see how they get through it and how they support each other. This book really reminds me of The West Side Story, and I was obsessed with this when I was a kid. I still love it to this day. But something about the story is just very similar to me. It gives me the same vibes. So if this story is interesting to you, or if you like The Outsiders, I also recommend West Side Story. So what's the point of reading all these books? Like I mentioned before, we use these books as a way to create discussions in the classroom. And this helps us with our public speaking skills. We practice talking in front of groups of people, and it also helps us learn how to express ourselves, how to express our opinions, and understand other people's perspectives on things. And it helps us build communication skills. And many assignments that we did in these English literature classes involved making a presentation on this book. So we would create a kind of mini thesis and create a presentation and then present it to the whole class. Of course, when I was in school, I felt really nervous speaking in front of large groups of people at first, but the more I did it, the easier it got. And it also helped me build public speaking skills that I still use to this day. And honestly, by the end of my high school career, I really liked giving these presentations. I liked talking about these books, and I liked getting questions from other students and having this kind of discussion in class. And most American schools do really focus on public speaking and real life skills, so books are just a great place to start. But another main reason why we read these books in school is to help us expand our vocabulary. And we learn to use context clues to figure out what new words might mean. It's also a way to improve our own writing skills in English. So we observe the way that other people write, and we can analyze these texts and these writing structures, and then we go to write our own book reports, essays, or even our own short stories. And these are really just a few books that we read in school, so let me know if you're interested in any more. I definitely love to talk more about all of these books, and also let me know if you've ever read any of these before and what you thought about them. But now I want to ask you guys a question. I'm curious what you you read when you were going through school and what you thought about all of those books or poems or short stories or anything. Did you like reading them or did you learn anything from them? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to know what you guys used to read in school. But that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.